Josh Hawley, a senator from Missouri, introduced the Pelosi Act to ban congressional members and their spouses from trading stocks. This is one of those stories that, if mentioned, people usually ignore it because they're bored. Oh, it's about stocks. But once they find out what you're really talking about, what the story is really about, people usually get infuriated, as you will too. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we are the antidote to the daily onslaught of radical woke Marxist propaganda. So, the Gateway Pundit did the story of the Pelosi Act. And it is a troll on Nancy Pelosi, obviously, who will certainly earn the notoriety. So Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, on Tuesday introduced the Pelosi Act, which bans one of Capitol Hill's most notorious activities, according to the Gateway Pundit. That's when congressional members and their spouses trade and hold stocks. Now, Peter Schweitzer did a book about this called Throw Them All Out. And one of the things he pointed out in the book is that when companies want to go public, they have to deal with the SEC, and they take months of sending reports to the SEC to show what shape their company's really in, okay? And the House, which is in charge of money, created a committee so that all that documentation has to go through them. Now, imagine if you were a crooked person, which most of them in the DC swamp are, and you had access to all that insider trading on a company that's about to go public, and you could use the SEC data to tell if you should buy the stock and how much you should buy and how well it's going to be predicted that it's going to go, you would land your ass in jail unless you're a member of Congress. Because like everything else these scumbags do, they exempted themselves from the insider trading laws years ago. So what you and I would go to prison for, they can do with impunity because it's not illegal for them. I mean, when you think about it, how does Nancy Pelosi go to work in Washington, D.C., not a very wealthy woman, and she comes out decades later with over $100 million in net worth? They didn't make that kind of money in Congress to have that much net worth. So back to the piece. So Nancy's husband, Paul Pelosi, not only bought a $5 million worth of computer chip stocks before a vote on semiconductor legislation in June, but he also purchased over $1 million in Alphabet stock. That's Google's parent company, immediately before Democrats introduced a bill banning congressional stocks in September. Pelosi laughably denied last summer that her husband ever made a stock purchase based on information he received from her, but yet he was always like one of the top people that everybody listened to when he talked about what stocks he was picking. As the Gateway Pundit previously reported, Pelosi ranked the top trader in Congress in 2020 and in the top 5 in 2021. This is what makes her one of the most corrupt speakers in U.S. history. So this bill introduced by Hawley, called the Pelosi Act, would then ban members of Congress or their family members from holding or trading stocks. Now, people would argue and go, well, wait a minute, the family members have... Oh, sure they do. Hunter Biden, anyone? The legislation is known as the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments, Pelosi Act. It references former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was called out last year for that $5 million in stock in the semiconductor company that Paul purchased on. Pelosi was among a group of Republicans and Democrats who beat the market in 2021 with hundreds of millions of dollars in stock trades. Others who fared the best were Representatives Austin Scott, Republican Georgia; Brian Mast, Republican Florida; French Hill, Republican Arkansas; John Curtis, Republican Utah; and looky who, Dan Crenshaw, Republican Texas. Didn't he just call the Freedom Caucus holdouts terrorists? Wasn't that the same Dan Crenshaw who did that? So Hawley says, for too long, politicians in Washington have taken advantage of the economic system they write the rules for, turning profits for themselves at the expense of the American people. Hear, hear. He continues, as members of Congress, both senators and representatives are tasked with providing oversight of the same companies they invest in, yet they continually buy and sell stocks, outperforming the market time and time again. Bravo, Senator Hawley. So Hawley's Pelosi Act would ban members of Congress and their spouses from holding, acquiring, or selling stocks while they are in office. The legislation gives members and their spouses 6 months after taking office to divest stocks they hold or put them in a blind trust. Now, I wish they would go even further and have someone from the House do an investigation into how much money Pelosi and all the others made by using this exemption. They won't get in trouble legally because these scumbags exempted themselves for something that you and I would go to prison for while they made millions of dollars. But I think it would be a good thing for the American people to know which scumbags made money. And I don't give a damn what party they belong to either. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And look, folks, everybody in America understands when someone has an unfair advantage that there's just something wrong. Even animals get that. I have 2 dogs, okay? If I give one of the dogs a treat and the other one doesn't get one, he knows that that's unfair, okay? So they think that you're dumber than a dog, all right, that you don't understand that something like that is unfair. They can make millions of dollars off something that they exempted themselves for, but they got laws against you doing it. That's just BS right then and there, all right? Okay, so that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for spending time with us. We'll see you in the next one.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars.